All right, guys, what's going on? This is Dan French, and this is the French Workbench podcast, and I'm in studio with my good friend here, Brett Jenny from Simply Vegas. And Brett, man, it's a beautiful day. What's going on, brother?
It's beautiful, man. I mean, this is what it's all about in Vegas, this weather. Not too hot, not too cold, just perfect.
Right?
You know what I mean, Dan France?
Oh, yeah. We got a special guest in studio, and he's a great guy, man. I've had him. Man, this guy was back when I was doing the radio show. He was doing...
oh, really?
Yeah, actually, he came on the radio with us.
Okay.
It's kind of crazy, too, because it's like last minute I was scrambling. You know, we always talk about, like, appraisals and stuff and, you know, why that's so important.
The most important part of a deal.
Yeah, it is.
People don't realize that.
It really is.
They're like, well, I want to get in price on that. And I'm like, listen, that's all great. You know what's going to determine it?
Yeah. So in studio, I got
My man.
Andy Papazian. Andy, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey, it's great. Great to be here. Beautiful day out, like you said, and just happy to be here and answer some questions, see what happens.
Dude, Andy, you got some experience, right, in being an appraiser, right?
I do, actually. I used to be a realtor for many, many
Okay.
years. And then I switched over, so I've been in
What do you enjoy more? Obviously, appraisals?
appraisals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, it's crazy. So,
you know, what wears you down in real estate.
right, yeah.
so let's talk a little bit. We're all here talking about appraisals. Brett's a real estate agent. Andy, you're also a real estate agent, right? And you're appraiser. So do you both, or you kind of just put that on the side?
No,
or what?
I don't. Actually, I kind of gave up my license a few
He
years
wasn't
ago.
a realtor as
You
well.
were?
Now
I
he's
was.
just
I
an
was,
appraiser.
And I was looking at you online. I was like, dude, this guy's an appraiser.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. So
Right.
talk to me. You know, what's happening out there? We're in the trenches. What's going on? Houses are selling quick.
Houses are selling quick, from what I understand from realtors.
Yeah.
Inventory is very low.
Yeah.
Which makes things really hard. A lot of people want homes, and they're overbidding or they're multiple offers.
So I'm sure you're seeing a lot of that. That
lot of
people
it,
are paying
yeah.
20, and I mean, we're talking 20, 30 grand sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
So how is that laying out with appraisals? Is there a certain benefit that you give because you know the market's going up, or you can't kind of say, well, I'm going to give it a little bit more because we know where the market's going? Is that ever in consideration, or
It is and it's not.
Okay.
It depends. In other words, we cannot base our opinion on, okay, there's 10
what
offers,
you think
so
is
we have to
gotcha?
give it. But keep in mind that
Realtors do.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm just kidding.
They do.
I'm like, it's called leverage, and that's worth money.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just because you have a lot of offers doesn't add value to the property. But keep in mind that a lot of underwriters these days, they want us to use comps that are less than 90 days.
Yes.
So whatever happened 90 days ago is pretty much what's happening today.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping that in mind, now, let's say a house sold for X amount. We don't know if that person paid extra, out of escrow.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to go based on what's sold. And
Gotcha.
those are recent sales, so that tells us what the market
Purely
is like.
factual.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask you something,
gotcha.
Andy. So you got in this business a while back. How long you been in as being an appraiser?
2003.
Wow.
So 18 years old.
18 years, man.
So why did you become an appraiser? What made you intrigued about becoming an appraiser, especially when Vegas back in that time period was nothing, right? There was not a lot of properties.
It was right before it started to take off.
Yeah.
2003.
before it started
Correct.
taking off, 2003, and then it climbed up to 2005, 6, 7, and that's when we started seeing the decline after that.
Well, the fact that you're still a main appraiser, I know that you were a good appraiser.
Oh, thank you.
Because the ones back in the day
Yeah,
that
some of them are
got
gone.
blacklisted.
That's right.
And like when the market crashed,
Yeah.
there were a ton that just got blacklisted
Right.
from banks. If you weren't one of them, you were a good appraiser.
Well,
As far as honest and
right,
stuff. Yeah.
Well, this is what I tell people is, our job is not to make somebody's deal. Although we never want to kill somebody's deal,
Yeah.
but we have to cover everybody. We're
Yeah.
protecting the lender. You also
You have to abide by what
Yeah.
your
Right.
rules are,
Right.
and you play no favorites. It's very
Yeah.
factual. So
because sometimes down the road, let's say 2-3 years from now, things start changing. Guess what? The first thing that's gonna,
Yep.
the first person that's gonna get sued is the realtor. They're
Yep.
gonna say you didn't protect my back.
Yep.
Okay, and then they're gonna come to me, and then it's the lender. Everybody's
It's
on the
all
hook.
it all gets passed on. Yep, I gotcha.
So when you're out there and you're doing work, let's go back. So you went into being an appraiser because what intrigued you so much about it? What was the most important thing? Like for you? A lot of people fall into their type of job, right? They just,
Right.
hey, this looks like I can make some money. I might be good at it. Was it really something as a passion for you, or did you just fall into it?
It was a passion. I was always a successful realtor. I mean, I have walls and walls of plaques which are now sitting in boxes. You know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that was not the motivation. you
Yeah,
know,
right.
Obviously. So
Right.
Yeah.
I just thought it was very interesting. I'm good with numbers. I enjoy making sure things are done right. So, even when I was a realtor, before I wrote an offer, I would look at some comps and just
Yeah.
see where this property is at, because your fiduciary duty is to protect
Absolutely.
the buyer. you
And
know?
same thing when you go to take a listing.
Right, exactly.
Like we don't
right.
want to deal with a situation where we're 50 grand off and then we're dealing with
Absolutely.
all these issues later.
I just had one. Okay, the guy closed escrow sometime in January of this year.
Okay.
Put it on the market like less than 30 days after that. Got an offer 3 days later for, I believe it was 30 something thousand over.
Okay.
So I
Better
called-
not be FHA.
No, it was not.
Okay.
So I called the agent, just out of courtesy, and I said, "Well, what comps did you use? Because maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah,
here,
yeah. Yeah.
Give me some comps that you used."
Yeah.
And you know what his answer was? Well, that's what the seller wanted to list it at. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
Yeah. So I mean, listen, realtors are that a lot of realtors will say a lot of things to get listings,
Right.
which is why I primarily work 90% of my transactions in the past 15 years have all been on the buying side.
Right.
And for that reason, because I don't like playing that game with sellers,
Right.
where it's like, you're telling them what they want to hear to get the listing, and a couple weeks down the road or later, I'll
down.
have that conversation with
Right.
them on how that. That to me is BS,
It
man.
is.
That's like,
I agree.
Yeah.
it's just that's what a lot do. So I totally get it. Like that,
Sure.
that is a very realtor answer
Right.
to a T, man. You're just like, thanks, man. Guess what the appraisal's coming in at?
Right. Yeah.
Asshole.
So we've all seen that Vegas is starting to open up.
Yeah.
Now, everybody was, pandemic, a lot of issues. Now, we had a lot of issues where people weren't traveling here. And what are your thoughts about Vegas, first off? Because I'm going to go into why we're talking about that part of it. What are your thoughts about Vegas? You've seen a lot of it. How long have you been in Vegas?
30 years.
Okay. And you saw a lot of the growth. When I came out here, it was like nothing was past rainbow.
Right.
That's about how it was at. I don't know when you came
What
out.
year did you come out here?
Oh, man. I came out here, I think it was like 2021. I'm sorry, 2001.
Okay.
Wow.
into
Yeah, I didn't come
2001.
out until 2009.
Yeah, so I
So
was-
just within those 8 years, it wasn't even beyond. Wow.
It was crazy. And so you've seen the transition and you've seen what's going on. I guess the question for me is, with all these changes that's going on with Vegas and everything coming back to normal, do you start to see the growth coming back where you had it before? I mean, obviously it's a process, but do you see Vegas coming back now that COVID's kind of gotten under control?
Actually, I do, and I'm hearing things that they're trying to get different industry out here as well.
Really?
So yeah, so we're not depending so much on casinos.
Smart.
Yeah.
Diverse,
Very- you know what?
diverse
Very
economy.
smart, yeah.
That's how you keep your economy going, is when it's diverse.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's why we got hit so hard in 2008, 2009, dude.
That's right. Yeah,
I mean-
I think we need to get some manufacturing out here.
100%.
Maybe a car plant or something.
Yeah.
Something, right?
you know,
Manufacturing, I like that they're bringing tech out here and
Tech-
making
tech,
more
right,
tech.
yeah.
I mean, this is,
Well, we got
Absolutely.
Google out here, right? We have some jobs like that.
but I
A
mean,
lot
like
of
Reno.
IT.
Like I know a lot of Silicon Valley firms
Right.
have moved to Reno
Right.
from Silicon Valley. Like to see some of that here too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and they're also talking. I mean, there's a lot of speculation out there, like where people are moving. A lot of people are moving from California. They're moving to Texas, and they're worried. That, I saw something. I think it was on YouTube or some news. I was reading that Texas might become another California because it's big. People are taking their money.
Absolutely.
And
that's
it's-
where they're moving, here or Texas or
Right.
Florida.
So you see a big influx about Californians. You see a big influx in them coming. Do you see any other areas where people are really moving from?
Absolutely. I drive around all day long pretty much. Well, not
Right.
all day long, but I drive a lot. I see a lot of Texas plates.
Dude, you should Uber at the same time. Dude, you'd be
good
killing
idea.
it,
Yeah,
man.
right.
Hey, I got to do an appraisal over here.
how much
I'll
road
drop you off over there.
how much road rage do you see in a day, man?
Right.
Dude, I would have my phone sitting out, just like waiting for something to happen. I'd just be like, all right, what's the next crazy thing I'm going to see?
Have
on
your
this trip?
GoPro just rolling, man.
Right.
I've done that
Good
before
idea.
from east to west, like on Charleston, because of the contrast of West Charleston and East
Oh, yeah.
Charleston.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll just let my GoPro roll just to like,
So
here's the entire street.
Yeah.
So, like for you though, you're traveling a lot in the car,
Right.
But you see a lot of things going on in Vegas. You see it coming back. Where's other people really moving from in today's world? We know that there's a lot of tourism that's going to be happening. We're down 50%, I think, or quite a bit.
Yeah, close to 50.
Close to 50%. But where do you see people moving from in other areas besides California?
Oh, it's kind of hard to say. The only thing I can rely on is, like I said, just driving around, see different license plates. And I'm not on the strip, so you can't say those are tourists. Although some of them may be. But in residential areas, you're on the 215. People driving around stuff. So in other states, I see also like Alabama, things like places like that.
You know what? I see one of the most frequent plates that I've seen ever since I've been out here in 2009, Alaska.
Yeah, I've seen some of those as well. Yeah,
all the time, Alaska. That's probably one of the most frequent plates I've seen since 2009, since I've been here, Alaska.
So just people are tired of where they're at. For example, California, they're just tired of paying all those taxes.
Yeah, there's got to be a reason why people are moving, and obviously, I would say it would be because you have cheaper cost of living here.
Right.
Absolutely.
One big thing does it cost more to live in Alaska? Do you guys have any data on that?
You know what?
No idea.
I just worked with a buyer that I was out showing a couple weeks ago that lives right outside of Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah.
And it was a little less than a quarter acre. And so up there is like in Wisconsin, you don't have block cinder walls.
Sure. Oh yeah.
There's no walls.
Right.
Like where's my lot line at? Where my neighbor mowed?
Right.
That's where you know your lot. Like there's no walls. So Alaska's like that too. So when you say like a little less than a quarter acre, they're still next to someone, just whatever it is.
Sure.
Yeah. And it was probably a 2,500 square foot single story, maybe 10-year-old, 12-year-old home. And I think they had it on the market for like $475. Wow. It was actually pretty expensive. Yeah. I mean, you think for Alaska, but it was actually pretty expensive. Sure. It was higher than here.
Have either of you guys ever been to Alaska?
No, man.
No.
Always wanted to though.
Yeah.
Well, so let's go back.
My wife's been to the Iditarod.
The what?
Iditarod. Dog sled race that they go across the entire state.
That didn't sound right.
That's what it's called, Iditarod. Yeah, right.
I was like, say that again.
Yeah, because her dad was a principal up there. He was a principal in her hometown. He retired and was like, hey, I'm retired. I want to do something. Had a chance to go up in Alaska because they really needed them. Like it was on an island where you had to take a frickin' hour boat ride just to get to the island.
Yeah.
And the only people that could legally drink were the Native Americans. If you were white, you couldn't drink.
Really?
Yeah, legally there.
So you'd get kicked out.
Well, they didn't serve it anywhere to you.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
It's like the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? What used to happen.
Yeah. Anyways, I wouldn't want to live there, but
So Andy, let's go back.
sorry.
No, it's all good. So we're talking appraisals. And, one thing I want to know is that has appraisals gone down? Have you seen a lot of appraisals where you don't have as many assignments? And also I've seen a lot of people waiving contingencies based upon appraisals
That's
in
the main
today's
thing.
market.
Right.
It's like, oh, you're going to come in and buy it at $500,000. Well, if we come in and it's, whatever it is, and let's say it's 480, they're still going to be like, you know what, we'll waive the appraisal contingency. We'll still pay 500,000. So why is this happening? Is it because people just don't care? Because I
Supply and demand.
I feel that they're walking into negative equity. Now you might get that equity back in 6 months, 8 months, but I guess people are saying, you know what?
So
I gotta be somewhere.
are you overpaying for the house? Yes, but so.
Well,
It's all relative.
it comes back to, is it a wise investment? So you're dealing with a
Yes.
lot of this though, right, Andy?
Yeah, well, to answer that particular question, the ones that I have seen waiving the appraisal is on refis.
I see.
Now I don't know on the other side because nobody tells me, hey,
Yeah,
we're
they
doing
don't-
this
yeah,
loan,
they
but
don't know
we're
what
not
the
gonna
con-
use, they don't call me and let
All
me
right,
know.
so I'm gonna bring you on the spot here for a second.
Okay.
All right. So you got a lot of people that do refis, and we all know they're trying to get a certain number. Does the buyer actually meet you at the house and they're like trying to make the house look better, and they're like, you know what, I'm building my case, so I can get the most amount. Why? Because people are trying to pull money out of their house. We all talk about refis right now.
Yeah.
are happening quite a bit, more of a cash out refi. So you have to ask yourself, well, what are people doing behind the scenes? Are they really meeting you at the door, asking questions and saying, I want to try to get to a certain amount of value? Because everybody always says, do I really need an appraisal? And it's based upon one's opinion.
Right.
Banks need it.
Yeah.
But tell me in your thoughts, what's going on with that?
Actually, no. Most people don't say this is the number I need. And actually, I've heard from some appraisers, when they hear that, they turn around and walk out.
Really?
They will not
Dude, this isn't
continue.
2008.
Yeah.
That's how it was in 2008.
I just basically, I would either tell them, don't tell me the number because I can't hit it anyways.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to turn around and walk out. And what they told me really has no bearing because I have to support my value based on the comps I'm going to put in. Because that's what the underwriter is going to see. They're not going to see my conversation with the buyer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
No.
And I've had underwriters call me and say, we think you're a little high sometimes.
Yeah.
And they'll ask me, explain why you use these comps and not these.
Right.
Yeah, so
So
you
then
have
go on
to
an
justify
explanation.
everything,
Right.
and if not, then you have to justify getting caught. Yeah, absolutely.
Or sometimes they'll provide me some extra comps, maybe provided by the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to look at it.
I've done that before.
And that's fine. That's fine. I encourage when I call the buyer's agent or whoever I'm going to talk to. This is on the sale, of course, not on the refi.
Yeah.
I tell them if you have some comps you want me to look at, send them to me before I go out there.
Most appraisers are pretty open about that.
There's nothing wrong with that actually.
Yeah.
Whether I use those comps or not, that's up to me. But I want to see what you're basing your thoughts on.
Yeah.
So
Well, so I always think it's like, let me ask this question. So, you guys out been to a nightclub? You got the security at the door?
yeah, 50
It's like,
years
hey,
ago.
you know what? I got to get to 300,000. I'm going to slip you something under the table. It's just like, people probably think that actually happens. Has that ever happened to you where somebody's actually offered you something like
it
that? You're like,
hasn't.
dude, I can't do that.
No, I've been offered a tip a couple of times throughout my career.
Yeah.
I turn it down.
Dude, all those appraisers got blacklisted.
Yeah.
A lot of them
They did. There were quite a few, because
yeah.
I know 'em, but they all got blacklisted.
Yeah. And so how many appraisals, or not appraisals, but appraisers that you used to work with? Is there a lot of people that you used to work with consistently over the years that just said, you know what, I can't do it anymore. I'm done.
2009, a lot of them got out of the business when
They got cracked down on that, right? It was
Like
really-
lenders. Half the lenders I knew in 2009 said, see ya.
Some of them voluntarily left the business because 2009 is when we went to the AMC stuff. They created the AMCs.
Yes.
Thanks to Mr. Andrew Cuomo.
Yes.
Yeah, he was instrumental in that. So a lot of people said, I'm not doing appraisals for $250.
Yeah.
When we were charging in 2003-4 is when we started going from 350 up to 4.
Okay.
And that was kind of, there's no set number, of course.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what happened. That's the timeline.
So is that the fee of an appraiser? It's set by you or the company
Well,
individually or what?
It depends on, sometimes you set your own fees. If you're working with an AMC, they have their own fees.
Okay.
So there's a thing I want to talk to you about. So a lot of people don't like to pay a premium on the appraisal. A lot of times it's like, well, if you're using an AMC, the AMC charges a fee. Then you have an additional appraisal fee.
No, what the AMC does is they'll charge, let's say, for example, I'll throw out a number. Let's say they'll charge 500 or 550. And they'll turn around and pay the appraiser 4 and they keep the 150.
Huh.
So whatever the total fee is, they take their cut and varies. It could be $100, could
then-
be 150,
gotcha.
and then they'll pay you the rest.
Gotcha.
So when people are, can they negotiate that fee? Meaning, like, if somebody's like, I don't want to pay $600. Why would I want to pay $600? Right? I don't. I understand that the bank wants me to do it. Did anybody ever try to negotiate? Because I know you have to be like flat, right?
Who's negotiating?
Well, if
The client.
if they negotiate,
Oh,
they
for
have
like
to
a refi.
negotiate with their bank lender or their loan officer. Not
yeah,
with
that's
us.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, because you guys are going
Because
to
we're
get
not
paid.
charging them. The
Yeah.
bank is just paying
Yeah,
them.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is they wouldn't. Yeah.
So you're saying that the appraisal management company, right? They're the ones that's actually setting the. Are you the one setting it?
No,
Or
they are.
They are setting
They are.
it. Okay,
So if they charge you 600, we have nothing to do with that, and we're not getting the 600 either.
Yeah.
I see.
So yeah.
I see. So let's go back. You heard about the moratorium?
Which one? What one?
The moratorium that's coming out where people are being evicted or possibly
right,
or
right. Sure,
extended,
of course.
right? Or the getting foreclosed on potentially. We know a lot of people are making arrangements with their bank or making arrangements with the landlord. Now some people aren't, but most are. What are your thoughts on what's happening out there? Do you see anybody really having to deal with something that is catastrophic where they have to leave? Like, what are your thoughts on the moratorium?
I have not seen that yet. Not like we saw back in 2008 and 9, where people were turning their homes in lieu of foreclosure, or they were being foreclosed. I have not seen that yet.
Okay.
Now, what kind of arrangements they've made with their lender, I don't know.
Right.
But I think that's unfortunate, because you're having government tell you what to do with your money. If they want to put a moratorium, I feel they should pay the rental fee for this person.
Sure.
Yeah,
and if you guys haven't checked that video out, I actually had one yesterday. Sabrina Nelson from Las Vegas Review-Journal was in here talking about that and what her thoughts are.
What'd she have to say about that? What was her viewpoint?
She thinks it's going to be extended, and she says there's some programs out there. She's definitely seen that there's a lot of people that are, they're not struggling, they're getting back to work, but she does feel for a lot of
on that
people.
borderline.
Yeah, they're on the borderline. And so I asked her, I came out and said, look, Sabrina, do you think that, this is going to be extended? She says, I do, because I don't think it's fully at capacity.
Yeah.
When people are back, even though we got 50%, there's still a lot of people that's not working still, So going back to the appraisal situation, people come here, they move here, or they're trying to move here, and people are just going crazy. You look at the properties out there now, okay, and you look at the amount of comps that's out there. You look at the property appreciation. Is this the highest appreciation you've seen in homes that you've had since? I mean, you've been doing this 18 years?
Yeah.
Is this the highest you've seen?
Yes, it is, actually. I can say that it is.
Okay. What about you, Brett? I mean, you see that's out there,
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. The last time that I saw this kind of demand was short sale days, 2012, 2013. Right. And that's because home prices were the lowest that we'll ever see in our lifetime. And people with a lot of money, like hedge funds and stuff, understood the opportunity of it. Right. So, but the last time that I saw this kind of demand, so it's the demand is incredible right now. Completely different circumstances than why there's a demand right now versus 2011, 2012. Exactly. Right. But it's insane. I mean, there's 1,900 homes on the market where there should be 1,500. I mean, where there should be 15,000, and there's 1,900. So that's literally like 10 buyers for every house that comes on the market.
Yeah, it's crazy. And our inventory is very low here.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying is somebody's moving here from California and they're buying still twice the home for half the price, a third of the property taxes and no state income tax. You say, well, they're paying 20 or 30 grand. They're paying over market value. So
yeah. Well, it's true.
Well, you see what I'm saying? It's relative.
Exactly right.
So we're seeing a lot of people that are coming here and buying. Now, I know that when you go into a position where you already know that people are willing to go above price. Mm-hmm. They're already willing, like, you know what, I'm going to go above. You're seeing this more and more. Would you say, what is the percentage, if you have one, that the percentage of people are actually willing to go above price in today's world or today's market? Do you have something that shows that data?
Actually, yeah. Sometimes in the contract it will say that the buyer is willing to pay up to $10,000 or up to $15,000.
So you know that going right in. Like,
sometimes, not always, but sometimes. If that's the understanding they're writing the contract on, then it will be in the contract. So I know they're willing to go up to $10,000-$15,000 above, but not to exceed their offer price.
I see.
So if they wrote an offer for $400,000 and the appraisal comes in at $485 or something, they'll pay up to the $15,000. But if it's more than that, they're not. So at that point, some negotiation is going to start happening.
Mm-hmm. And you see the same thing, Brett. Like you see that you're writing contracts that way, where you're already saying, "Look, I already can tell what the seller's willing to do."
Like he just said. Yeah, we're going above list, and we're going to have a set number so that it's just not infinite. We're going to have a set number, but up to 15 grand over. I just had that one right now where it's a probate, and it's still got to get approved through the court. But we were 15 grand above. We were in contract at 435 and it was listed at 420, and we purposely wrote it 15 grand above and the waived the appraisal, well, basically to bring in the difference. Right. Sure. And sure enough, it came in 15 grand. So
it's crazy, right?
But the buyer wasn't thinking twice about it because we had gone out for 3 weekends in a row and wrote on probably 7 or 8 properties before that, and we're just getting their handed to them.
Yeah.
So they're finally, it just warmed down. They're like, I'm sick of this. I just want to get in a house. I know I'm going to be here for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Sure. It's going to give me the quality of life that I want where I want. Yeah. I'm going to more than make my money back when I go to sell it someday, and I need a place to live this whole time. Right. So here we go.
So, so Andy, you've bought homes, I'm assuming here, right?
Yeah, sure.
In this market, it's a frenzy, right? And so a lot of people are I feel like a lot of people don't want to miss out. rates are low, things are happening.
That's the thing. Rates are low.
Yeah, even though they've gone up a little bit, I think people get a little bit.
They're still low historically.
Yeah,
they're still.
right.
I mean, that's the thing. So even if the market is going up and you're paying 20 grand more, your interest rate that you're getting it on.
Sure, you make it.
Yeah, 100%.
So you're not really compared to a normal market, normal interest rate. You're not overpaying.
Yeah.
Look at it that way.
No, you're absolutely right. And so what I'm going back to is that, in this market, do you already know going in? Because I think a lot of people, when you're an appraisal, you're going in going, at least I have some flexibility because I already know, like, this is what I think it's going to be. You got to prove that, but you already know that it's not going to be something you got to, like, address because people are already knowing that this is going to come in. If somebody writes a contract like that, Brett, you're a realtor, writes a contract, you already know going in that this is probably going to have some flexibility a little bit because you already know that these people in their mind are thinking, this isn't going to appraise. Right. This appraisal is not going to come back and hit value. So does it help your cause going into it? I'm just curious because I'm trying to get into the mindset of an appraiser and how they think. As
far as an appraisal goes, to me at least, it doesn't matter who's thinking what or what they're expecting because I have to be able to prove my work. It's kind of like you're in school and you do a test and you write all the right answers, but you fail it. Teacher says, because I don't see your work. Yeah. I don't know how you got this.
Yeah.
This is the same way. I can come up with a spot on appraisal, but they need to see how I have to explain myself.
Yeah.
His job is factual, not opinion.
Exactly. Right.
If that's even a word.
The opinion is only the result.
Yes.
It's kind of like you're painting a picture.
Yeah.
And you don't know what that picture is going to look like really until it's all finished. You have an idea. So once I put in all my comps, I do all my adjustments, I come up with a range, and somewhere in that range is where I'm going to base my opinion.
We all know that appraisals can get in trouble. And we all know that you probably take this very seriously. But let's say somebody gets in trouble. Who do you have to answer to?
As far as an appraiser goes? Or?
Yeah, as far as an appraiser goes. Who do you answer to? Like, you got the real estate division for him. I got the mortgage lending division. Right. Who do you answer to?
It's
like
basically the same way. It's the division portion of the governing body.
Okay.
And you have to abide by USPAP rules and regulations while you're doing your appraisal. That's another governing body. So yeah, we're very highly regulated.
Got it.
I mean, and they have different checks and balances.
Yeah.
It's not just he's the end all be all. It's like he's got to prove it, and then they've got to.
I mean, once you get in trouble, you're called on the carpet. They can get you for like the smallest, stupidest thing.
It's like anything, right? Just go about your business professionally. Right. Don't try anything because if they start really looking, like you don't want anyone to look into every little thing because
something as simple as let's say you're in trouble, right? And the attorney really looks at this thing. Yeah. And they'll try to find every tiny little thing, say, because if you did all these little things, that means this is not a credible appraisal.
I'm curious. All right. I've been doing lending for a while, right? 12 years. And I haven't really seen anything where an appraiser's done some crazy stuff, right? Where they're just like got in trouble. Have you seen some past work by an appraiser?
I have.
Yeah. Give us some ideas about.
He's like, you don't even know, man.
Give us some ideas about what people have done. Just some of the stories.
I'll give you one story where the appraiser, in my opinion, was not 100% at fault. His fault was very tiny.
Okay.
But it was very important.
Okay.
What happened is this tenant was living in this property for many years.
Uh-huh.
This is in California, by the way, where they have this crazy things. You have a house, then you got a garage that was converted to a house.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that's East Side over here.
You know what I'm saying? Something happened. The buyer decided to sue. So everybody was called, the lender, the agent, the appraiser.
So the buyer decided to sue for what?
Well, I'm going to get to this. Something about, they said they didn't think that conversion was legal or permitted.
I see.
Now, you lived in this house for like 5 or 10 years or whatever it was. It was a long time.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
Uh-huh.
So the appraiser, I don't remember the exact details now. This was a while back, but the appraiser's fault was minimal.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
But they got him. He didn't lose his license or anything, but he had to pay some fines. He had to hire an attorney.
Yeah.
I think this guy was in like $20,000-$30,000 for a $400 or $300 fee.
Oh man.
So he didn't intentionally do anything.
Yeah.
But just to go to show you, a buyer can sue whether they win or not. You're screwed.
Yeah.
Because now on his E&O, he has to, every time he renews it every year, there's a question that says, have you ever been sued or a complaint against you? You have to say yes, even though you really didn't do anything wrong.
Listen, at the end of the day, I don't even care if you're not guilty. The pain of having to go through dealing with an attorney is just, dude, it costs you money. Sure. It's stressful. It's just, it doesn't matter the outcome. I mean, the outcome does matter, but just the fact of you just take whatever precautions you can not to even get to that point, because it sucks.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I think there's a lot of people that don't know what really goes on with the appraisal part of it. They don't even know why you have to have it, and it's because a bank needs you to have it. But they don't know what's involved. They just think that, well, if somebody's just going to go out there and make sure you're taking comps in other areas of where properties have recently sold, and you have to justify why those comps are there. And then sometimes it's like, well, how does an appraisal come back $30,000?
Here's what I always say to people: the appraiser works for basically is there to protect the lender, not you, because the lender is the one that's loaning you $400,000. Exactly. So the lender's getting the appraisal to make sure that the money they are lending you is worth the $400,000. They're not doing it for your benefit; they're doing it for their benefit.
Well, I got a question. I want to ask this though. There's been stuff where I've had contracts come out where $30,000 less, $25,000 less. Why is that off so much? Is that because the realtor didn't do their work, or
sometimes?
Sometimes it is.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. I see it all the time.
And then the first thing I get from a client is, "Well, how does an appraisal come back and it's that low? Where did this all go wrong?" And I'm like, I can't say, "Well, your realtor didn't pull comps right." And you know,
they didn't even bother to do it. They just wrote the offer based on what was being asked.
And that's like 101, right?
Yeah.
When you're making an offer, the first thing you're going to do is go back.
The first thing that I do for my buyers when I run an appraisal, or not an appraisal, but when I run the value, is I try to break it down as much. So here's what I do: is I do everything that's within that exact community. If I can't find anything in that exact community, which usually isn't a problem in Las Vegas. Right. Then I go up to a half mile out, quarter mile, and then if I can't, then a half mile out, whatever it is. Everything within the last 60 days, and then everything that's plus or minus 150 square feet of the house, unless you're talking about like a 7,000 square foot house or something like that. And then everything plus or minus 5 years of that age. Is that a good rule?
You're right on. You're right on.
15 years.
15 years.
But
that's the agent to use, because he's looking out for you.
Yeah, because listen, I'm not going to say maybe you shouldn't overpay to get the house if that's what you want based on your scenario.
What they want.
But they need to know everything up front. They need to know, just so you know, as an agent, I guess it's to my benefit to know this too, because I don't want to I don't want to get 2 weeks into a deal to have huge issues like this.
Right. Yeah.
Because when you're talking about 30, 40 grand difference in appraisal, that's when people walk away. Yeah. If you're talking 5 grand, 10 grand, usually they work it out.
They work it out, sure.
You know?
Okay.
So under this market right now, okay, are you guys going to continue to see where people are going to be waiving the contingency, right, for the appraisal? Right now, this market is people don't really care about the appraisal.
That's what I'm saying.
They don't care at all. And I'm not saying that we don't need one. I'm just saying even if you go perform the work.
They can't even get a damn house right now. That's all they care about is just being able to get a house.
Yeah. And it's, well, think about it from a new home standpoint. If you're going to go buy a brand new home, I've never seen an appraisal. This is just my personal experience. Come in less on a brand new home.
I have.
I had one.
Why is that though? Why are appraisals 99% of the time come in where the value's there? How do you support the comps? How do you go out and if the house isn't built, how does that take place where you're like, well, this is what happens, and if it's this, then this is what it's going to be?
All right, good question, actually. This is what I do, and a lot of appraisers probably do this. First of all, you ask the builder to give you the comps. Their most recent comps. I'll ask for 3 and maybe 2 pendings. Because a lot of times there may be a new subdivision somewhere where all the homes around it are older. So yeah, sometimes we will have to use an outside comp. That's really not a good comp.
Yeah.
Also, people are willing to pay more for a brand new house than they would be for a resale. That's just the way it is. Even though you're getting no backyard done, so you have to spend money doing the backyard. In most cases, there's no window treatments. You have to do your own, and that's in the thousands. But for some reason, people are willing to pay more on a brand new home. Okay,
it's like buying a brand new car.
Yeah,
man. You're coming in knowing
sticker
you're just
price. Sticker price.
So what I typically do is when I get my 3 sales from the builder, what I would do is they give you a breakdown of all the options. How much lot premium, how much options you spend, and then you look at the subject property. So if the subject property spent $20,000 in upgrades and $5,000 on lot premium, and let's say my next comp spent $25,000 on their upgrades and same on the lot premium, I would subtract the $5,000 for the upgrades. So now these two homes are equal; they're the same.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Right? That's just like another adjustment, or vice versa. If one spent less, then I would.
He uses the system he's supposed to use,
Yeah.
and applies everything properly.
Exactly, and you come up with a value, and most of the time you'll be right on.
So do you do the same work though? Like you go out there and you search and
Oh, absolutely.
you do the same amount on a new home, even when it's
Absolutely.
maybe 30 or 50%. Let's say I wouldn't say it's 50. 90% usually is that barometer where people go out and look for house or go out and get that appraised. So you're saying on appraisals, home appraisals at 90% for new home, you go out there, you know the house isn't done yet. Chances are, a lot of times
It doesn't
it's not.
matter though, because I have a list of
Yep.
the options or upgrades they got. It's in the contract
Yep.
that I get, so
So-
I know what's going to go in the house.
Yeah. So those upgrades and all the things, because you've appraised and you've done this before probably at others, I mean, it helps a lot. Is
It
that
does,
right?
yeah, it does. It gives me an image of what's going on, even though I'm not going to see originally like what type of counters they put in. At this point, it doesn't matter because in a brand new home, they're not
They're
going to
paying
have.
for it.
They're
Yeah.
not going to have laminate countertops versus
Yeah,
granite.
yeah. Absolutely
So,
true.
yeah.
Absolutely true.
And even if they did, that's going to reflect on the upgrades
Yeah.
that they paid for. So that's what I adjust.
Yeah.
Everything that he does on it, he can prove.
Yeah.
Well, I just think
You know?
it's different because everybody always says, "Why do we need an appraisal on a
I'll
new
tell-
home?"
I'll tell
that's,
you why.
That's always a question, and I'm like, "Well, guys,
Because you need you
bank
need
wants
proof.
it.
What's like? Okay, I can run the value of what I think a house is. It takes me what 15 minutes. Why do you think it takes an appraiser 3 or 4 days? Because of all the steps and procedures that they have to legally go through and document.
yeah,
Well, let me
It's
give
just
you,
not my opinion.
let me give you a really good reason why you need an appraisal as far as the lender is concerned.
let's do it."
You know that the lenders don't keep those loans, right? They package them, they sell
Yes.
them. So when whoever buys that package of property,
Good point, man.
They've never seen this house. They may not even be in Las Vegas. They could be in New York somewhere,
Yeah,
or even another country.
Yeah.
The investor. So that's why you have to have all that paperwork
It's
in
smart-
case
yeah.
someday something goes wrong. If they pull out that appraisal and look at it, they'll see what happened. It's an image.
That's a good
snapshot.
point. That's a good point.
well, and I think that we do a 90%, I would say, of our business is new home right now.
Yeah.
I do a lot of cash out refis.
Yep.
Right. I'm doing a lot of cash out refis. I'm doing rate and term too. I think everybody's sensitive with the markets and what's going on. But I think overall, it's crazy. You go to California and are you guys seeing, do you know about this, Brett, about people in California? Are they willing to go above price at those areas as well? Because we all know that there's a high cost of living. Is Vegas unique for that, is what I'm saying? Is it unique where we're getting the appraisal contingencies waived because people do come here and the cost of living's less?
I've not sold in any other market, so I don't know, but I can tell you that from the private real estate groups I'm in with fellow realtors around the country and stuff like that, they're all talking about the same thing.
Same thing, isn't it?
I don't
Crazy.
care if you're in Wisconsin or if you're in Ohio, everything is just, there's just no
Same
homes.
thing.
Yeah. And
No
people
homes.
are overpaying.
Yep.
Isn't it crazy?
Everywhere.
It's supply and demand. So have you seen a market like this, Andy? Have you been in a market like this where we've seen this? We saw this back in 2005 and 6? Was that?
Yeah, right.
I mean, people were doing lotteries back then.
Sure, yeah.
There was a lot of prices were going crazy.
Yep.
Were they hitting the same price zone or the cost at that time versus now? Is that the kind of the same market you
I
see?
would say it's probably similar.
Okay.
Yeah. The driving force behind it is different this time. Okay. Before it was different. That particular bubble, I would say, was more financial.
Uh-huh.
This is more, how should I describe this? It feels different.
It is different.
It's It's different because I think a lot of it too is that there's a reason why, in my opinion, that there was a reason for those prices to go up.
Right.
This is just a natural appreciation. Now there is artificial things going
This
on.
is supply and demand.
Supply demand.
It's
right.
real
I
easy.
think that's what
I
was
mean,
looking
that's
for,
that's
yeah.
all. I mean, it's supply and demand. It's a high demand area, and there's no supply.
Yeah.
Now, the no supply is a accumulation of a few different things. But listen, 2 years ago, things were probably kind of already starting to head to this direction, and then all of a sudden, COVID hits,
Yep.
and then no one's going to leave their home because they don't have a place to go.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what
Well,
I
and
mean.
that's, I think
and
we're in
they're-
that same market now, though. You got people right now that they go buy a house. Okay, where are they going to go after they buy the house? Where's their next stop?
They have to buy another house.
They have to buy another house.
When
That's
they sell their
probably
house, yeah.
double the
And
cost.
they can't buy another house.
So
'cause it
that's what I'm
costs
saying.
2 times more.
So that's what I'm saying is they're not going to sell because then they're going. And I always say that people right now like, do you think right now is I'm thinking about buying right now and I want to sell my house and I'm gonna take my equity. I'm like, yeah. So you know
what
what's
are you
going to
gonna buy,
happen?
though?
Yeah. So you're going to sell in a seller's market and then buy in a seller's market.
Unless you had another house that was empty and you would just move
yeah,
into
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Have you been
I would say if you're going to sell right now, rent. Go and rent for a couple of years.
just to see what the market's going to do?
Just because anything you're going to make selling right now, you're going to give back buying, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So unless you want specifically
Well,
another house
yeah,
or
but think about
specifically
it.
for something, there's no point.
if you're moving to maybe a state though that has a less,
That's different.
that's a different
That's
situation.
different.
If
You're moving to a
gonna
different
stay
state
here, right?
But if you're staying here,
yeah, then just go rent
Yeah.
Doesn't
possibly,
make
right?
sense, right?
yeah.
Well, what if your family grew? Maybe you have to. Those I'm saying.
Absolutely. So
And-
unless that's the case, but
Going on the rental sector though, how many rentals are out there?
Yeah.
None. I see. There's none.
Same thing.
So look, it sounds easy to do. I'm not saying
It's not.
It's not easy.
It's
The
not.
problem is when this supply and demand happens in this market, people are scrambling
Yes.
to get their share. Then they're scrambling to say, well, if I get my share, where do I go? What do I do after that?
Right.
How do I invest my money? Should I sit on it?
listen,
There's a lot of speculation.
I
about
have
what people
sellers
wanna
right
do.
now, Sun City Anthem, and they're making probably $200,000 over what they bought it for 4 years ago. They've remodeled everything from head to toe for the past 3 years too.
Uh-huh.
They're moving back to somewhere in Indiana. This is the perfect scenario for them. They're making bank as a seller and they're moving into a market
That's
that
less.
they're going to get. Yeah, that's less.
Well, that's
I mean,
what California's doing.
Right. Yeah,
That's
exactly
what I'm
right.
saying.
And that's why you have a lot of people from Hawaii coming here.
Yes, that's what I'm
Dude,
saying.
there's
Demand.
I had a guy that's selling his house in Hawaii. Is like 3-bedroom, 2-bath home for like $700,000.
Yeah.
$700,000.
Dude, I was out with these buyers. This past weekend. I mean, like 3 or 4 days ago. They bought their daughter an apartment in Manhattan because she's going to college. So buy your daughter.
That's
one.
cool.
Right?
Dude, that's lucky.
They bought her. And she showed me a video of it. They bought their daughter a 1,900 square foot 1-bedroom apartment in Manhattan, $4.3 million.
Wow.
Where do you think,
I'm like, bro, I gotta go to
Andy, where do you think?
$4.3 million for 1,900 square feet.
That's crazy. That's
Welcome
crazy.
to Manhattan.
You see that market, you see here. Where do you, we compare it. You just basically brought that out. Where do you see this market headed? Like, I know you've been in this business 18 years. Do you think this is going to keep going up? I'm curious because people that have seen different markets, I always say everything's got to get corrected.
It will, I think. I think we're going to see a correction. I don't think it's going to be a
market
downfall.
collapse?
No, I don't
It's
think
not
so.
gonna be-
I don't think it's going to
Everybody
be like,
wants it.
It'll be a
Yeah.
correction in a form of when more homes can get on the market.
Yeah.
It's
Everybody
real
wants a
simple.
market
It's real
crash,
simple.
man.
It won't crash, but it'll.
It's one of these things where did the chicken or the egg come first?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, because
Absolutely.
you've got a certain amount of area here, buildable area.
Sure.
Then you've got the water situation.
Okay.
That nobody's talking about.
What's
Yeah,
that? Talk
good
about
point.
that.
Okay, well, they're always saying conserve water, conserve this. Lake Mead's going down. Lake Mead's down.
I
to
saw a
like
picture of Lake Mead.
1,080 feet.
Yeah,
Dude.
you see where the
Now.
water line used to be.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I was looking at one, man. It was
Yeah.
literally, people were diving. There was lines of people
Yeah, I
diving
know.
off of it.
It's actually sad when
It's
you go up there.
completely dry.
When you look at it, yeah.
Well, look,
Absolutely.
we're supplying water, from my understanding, to California.
California, yeah.
And we're getting a cost for that. So it's driving our market. But at the end of the day, how long would it take for that water, if it ever does, to get back to that level? Can it get
It's
back to
not
that
going
level?
to get back.
It's
to that
not,
level.
dude.
So what do? We just
That's from mountain snow.
They're building all these mega apartments. If you've noticed in town, I mean that's absurd.
yeah, the mega apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not just one or two buildings. They're all over town. There's hundreds of them,
Okay.
which is ridiculous. Nobody's talking about.
I
this
think
yet.
the future commercial and the future multi-units here would be far better off if they could start leaning towards water conservation, as far as they have their own pumps or they have their own something where they're basically recycling their own water.
Yeah.
Where
Well-
you're not going to need to really draw that much. Like, say, take an electric car, right? 10% gas, 90% electric.
Same thing.
Same
concept.
thing. Where
I mean, they'll come
like
up with
90% of the
something.
water is recycled, but 10% of it's
Sure.
something.
I think it's a sad thing though, because it is a landmark here, Lake Mead. It really is. It's just like Hoover Dam,
Yeah.
And when you see things going like that, you're like, well, why is this happening? My parents, they own a boat. We go out there like at least 5 times a summer. It's a great experience. What happens if that's gone? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, could it ever get to a point where there is no water to use, and are we?
I
Going to
think
get
that'd
to
be
that
a long time.
It's going to
But
be a long, very long time. That's for sure.
Not in our lifetime. You'll
Probably
see that.
not. Yeah. But again, when you're depleting something and it's not getting restored,
yep,
you're not heading in the right
it's
direction.
only a matter of time,
Yeah.
just not tomorrow.
So when you say if they keep building more homes, you also have to look at what's going on with the water situation.
Yes.
So
Will they
I
have?
don't
Will they
know.
have a way to get that water to those people in those houses, right? And is there
Yeah.
going to be enough to go
enough is
around?
yeah. Right.
I mean, you think home prices are high now? I'm just saying, not only the water thing, but look at Southern California. Sooner or later, every valley gets filled. Sooner or later.
Yeah.
And when the valley gets filled, what happens? No more room.
No more room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we're cheap right now.
Yeah.
I'll probably get some hate for that, but I'm cool with that.
Is there a difference between when you appraise a single family residence or a high rise?
No, the process is the same.
Same.
Absolutely the same. You just you have to use like properties to compare, and that's about it. The only difference is there are some high rises here in town that are classified as a condotel, which they're a hotel, but they're also a condo.
Yeah.
So those are done slightly different.
Like the ones that go in the rental pool?
Yeah.
So those condo tells and those high rises, are they easier to appraise because they're similar? I mean, because they're obviously
It's like a hotel room, right?
yeah. It's like going and saying, is there a hotel room and do they have the same amenities and
It's not just the amenities. I think the main difference on those, and by the way, I don't do those.
Right.
I refer them to commercial agents.
okay,
Because in my opinion, that's more of a commercial type thing. Even
Yeah.
though we can do them,
right?
I just rather not.
Yeah.
I see.
Because you would also have to look at their income, and it's not just a comparison approach.
Gotcha.
So you have to also consider the income. Sometimes we'll appraise a residential home that's rented. We do the income approach on that, but most of the time we don't put a lot of weight on it because it doesn't make sense.
Clarify the difference in a very concise way? Appraisal, or you said it was an income approach versus the what was it? The other
Sales comparison approach.
sales comparison approach. Can you clarify that?
Well, the sales comparison approach is the basic one that we use, which you compare similar properties, you make adjustments, and you come up with a value. The income approach, you kind of do the same thing, but you would use, let's say, 3 rental comps,
Okay.
and then you would also pull up a bunch of properties that were sold, but they were rentals at the time they were sold. So you look at their rental amounts, and you come up with a gross rent multiplier, the GRM.
Uh-huh.
And then you come up with what the going rate is for rentals in that area for similar homes.
Sure.
And then you come up with the income approach, basically.
I see.
But a lot of times it doesn't make sense because single residential homes are typically not used for that purpose, even though you may have a lot of them.
Yeah.
But that's not their main purpose. So the value difference might be a lot different. It may be similar,
Uh-huh.
but I don't put a lot of weight on it.
So how many properties do you have to take in comparison? Usually, how many properties do you
the
go outside?
minimum-
How does the to the average person out there that's going and buying their first house or buying a house? What do you use to compare against properties, and how far out do you go to compare these
Okay.
homes?
Well, Fannie Mae's minimum requirement is 3 comps. I usually do 4. I do 4 solds, and then I will do 2 available or pending sales.
Okay,
Those were required at the time when we had a declining market,
sure.
and some lenders stayed with it. They said, we still want to see those, even though we're not looking at them as comps. Okay, we're not considering them. So basically, yeah, that's what you do to come up with the value. You adjust those comps, you compare them, you come up with a range, and depending on how nice or not nice the subject is, you'll end up somewhere in that range.
People out there always want to talk about buying investment properties. Brett, how many people do you have that are looking for investment properties right now in this market? Is it tough?
I mean, those are usually the ones that are getting them below 500 right now because they're doing cash and they're willing to pay a little more. So, not so much investment as far as I want to rent it out, but I want a second home in Las Vegas,
Right.
or I come here 3 months out of the year.
Right.
So I want to have another home that I can just stay when I come here with
it.
no intention to really rent it out.
I see.
That's probably more than people who are looking to invest right now. A lot of investors don't like an investor by nature doesn't want to pay 10 or 15 grand over.
Yeah, but there's a lot of flip properties and flip
Well,
situations. So
there are.
If you
deal
can
with
find
that
one
too?
of those, let me know. As far as one where you,
Well,
I mean,
Here's why I'm saying that. There's properties out here that people are still willing to put money in and flip. And my curiosity
Yeah.
with him and with Andy and with you is, one, do you have investors that are actually like that out there with leads?
I don't.
No.
So I'm sure there's plenty that do, but a lot of those people are going to these We Buy Homes or.
Do you take
Zillow,
that in
whatever it is.
consideration, Andy? Where you know it's a flip property and you're like, well, I got to look at this as a flip property, or you're just like, because I'm sure like if somebody they always say put lipsticks on a pig,
Well, they'll usually, if they're smart, send you a list of what they put in, right?
Well, they do, but see, the thing is, they're not going to get dollar for dollar value for what they did. They'll have like clean out fee in there. Okay, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
That you have to pay a clean out fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But the problem with those type of properties, then you have to find comps that are similarly redone recently, and a lot of times we find those.
You do find
You
them.
do find them.
So like, what if you were an investor out there and you bought like 4 or 5 properties? It's the first property that's being completed. How do you go and find that? Meaning, if let's say you buy it in a low income area, right, or a low wage area,
Right.
and they put $50,000 into it, and they're trying to sell it for $80,000 than what they bought it for 6 or 8 months later,
Right.
and that's like the first house that they have. Is that a hard?
That might be tough.
That's a hard thing to
That
deal
would
with,
be
right?
tough.
Because now you're gonna be like, well, where do I get that? Where does that come from?
Yeah, I've had talks with underwriters, and they didn't come out and directly say what that adjustment should be, but it was on the very low side.
So to be a flipper and to be strategically doing this where you're making money, you got to know the right area too, probably.
You
to
do.
make
you
this work.
absolutely have to.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because if you go into a wrong
You have
area,
to get it for the right price. That's what it all comes
that's
down
it.
to.
But who does? You got to know the numbers, but you
Yeah.
also got to know that it has to appraise. Especially if you're selling it to a cash investor, you still got to get an appraisal, right?
Right.
So you still got to justify it, right? Somebody that's putting out 150,
No, if you're
300,000.
cash, you don't need an appraisal.
You don't need to, but a lot of times
Most
they
people
will.
do though,
Yeah.
because they're trying to protect the fact that they're putting
Yeah.
in $300,000 cash.
I mean, it's
I'm going
one-
to make sure that the value's there.
It's one thing if they're in their mind, they're saying, well, I don't mind if I'm paying 10 or 15 over, but what if it's 50 over and
That's
you don't
what I'm
know it?
saying.
Yeah.
You know?
Now you're like, dude, should
I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
well, look, I've
I'm
dealt
just
with
letting
that.
you know my experience.
I've dealt with it.
they're-
I've had a client that was
I say if you want an appraisal, then we need to not do it cash.
right.
I
Well,
mean, it defeats the purpose.
we know appraisals and appraisal contingencies right now
Yeah.
are a big thing where people are not wanting or don't really care
Yeah.
about paying above. When is that going to stop? Who knows? Obviously,
Even when it wasn't this
inventory.
market, if you're cash, I would say,
The
why are you writing
cure-all-
an appraisal?
Well, the cure-all for that is inventory, right?
right.
You get more inventory, more opportunities. People are going to come here and they're going to be like, I don't have to pay more. Supply and demand, like you said. So when is that going to happen, do you think, Andy?
I think when things get a little bit more normalized, when people are not writing 10 offers on the property,
Yeah, absolutely.
the market will dictate that.
Yeah.
I think the demand is going to stay consistent. I just think there needs to be more homes,
Yeah.
and that won't happen until we're further away from COVID.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Investment.
They were
well, I'm going to
being
say
asked,
this:
but-
investment properties. We're going to talk about this a little bit more because you have a schedule of rent, right? And you have to create that as an appraiser. So, if you've never been a landlord before and you're trying to get an investment property, and you're like, you know what, I want to buy this house. A lot of times, you don't have to have a lease set up, but what you do have to have is you have to have a schedule of rents, right? And that comes from the appraiser.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah. So how do you take that in consideration of rents in that area? Obviously, there's a certain protocol to do that, is right?
Yeah, you pull up your rental comps, just strictly rentals, not sales. And it's just like the regular report. You have 3 rental properties that have rented within the last 6 months or less, depending on how much inventory there is. And you make adjustments on them, like for bedrooms or square footage if sometimes. Most times you don't because they're very similar. And then based on that, you'll come up with the market rent. Let's say it's a vacant property. We're not getting any rents yet. So I will define what the market rent is.
Right.
So when the borrower gets a copy of the appraisal, they'll have all that information. They may want to rent it for more or for less, but they'll have something from a professional saying this is what the going rate is right now,
Yeah.
as of today.
They'll have a boilerplate price
Yeah.
to start.
Yeah, and they need that. I mean, obviously, when you get that determines if you can
Absolutely.
rent that property
Yeah,
for
well,
X amount.
the lender's
It's very
also going to
important.
let them know.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah.
So, any thoughts, you guys? Last thoughts? Like I said, I wanted to bring this up as a topic. People really don't know what appraisals are about, or appraisers what they do, and also what's happening in this market.
In a normal market, here's what I say about appraisals. I tell my buyers, listen, the price is whatever it is at the end of the day, but you're getting a loan, right? They say, yeah. I said, well, your appraisal will make sure you don't overpay for the property.
Yeah.
Because it's
Absolutely, it is true.
Because the person lending you money is going to make sure they don't lend you more money than what the house is worth. Trust me, they have more of an interest in that than you do because they're loaning you the money.
Because today we have a hot market, but what if 2 years from now the market is not hot?
Yep.
Yeah.
Then what happens to this value?
Yeah.
You're not so excited anymore for overpaying for it.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's what I say. I'm like, if you're getting a loan, your appraisal will ensure you don't overpay for the home.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's do
It's real
this.
simple.
We'll wrap this up. I got, Andy Papazian, he's from, is it Fidelity Appraisals?
Appraisal,
Yeah. Also, Brett Jenny from Simply Vegas. If you guys haven't commented, please comment. If you have any questions, I'll get it over to Andy about appraisals. If you guys haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, or tell friends and family about, subscribing, getting the content from Las Vegas, financing, real estate, money talk, talking everything here about what's encompassing Las Vegas. I'm your host, Dan French, and we will see you guys at the next video. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching an episode of the French Workbench Podcast. If you want to tune into past episodes, please subscribe to my channel now. Also, if you want to look at our audio-only options, we do have iTunes and SoundCloud.